Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Best Care Anywhere podcast, the only podcast sponsored by Pioneer Aviation of Concordia, Kansas. But more on them in a minute. Joining me as usual, he is beauty, he is grace, and he's got some gravy on his face. It is Ethan Wilson.
I told you that in confidence.
Bitch, nothing you tell me is in confidence.
That's fair. Honestly, I thrive on my stories of my antics being told and retold. And in a way, I will live forever through this podcast you've created. And I suppose I should thank you as my own mortality creeps ever closer.
We did have a conversation about this between the last episode recording and this recording of what if, like, 500 years from now, our podcast is part of like a mid 20th century culture course? Because there's no way, because like if you just look at the raw data, some like alien anthropologist is gonna like look through our records and be like, oh my god, this televised this televised theater production known as MASH, written by the great playwright Larry Gelbart, was the most viewed thing by a majority of the region of Earth known as America in the mid 20th century. Let us find all the written text and cultural knowledge about this show. There is a non-zero chance that our dumbasses are talking to like the Florpian fucking community college on Raxius or some bullshit. So
Well,
like they're doing a study of human Earth culture circa 1973.
and I know what you're saying out there. You're like, oh my god, that's not real. However, one of the only reasons we have such a handle on ancient Sumerian is because some copper merchant named
Fucked
A.
everyone
Nasir
over.
fucked everyone over and just showed the shittiest copper. And
There's
he just
literal libraries of clay tablets and describing how shitty this man's copper is.
Do you know how pissed off you'd have to be to send a complaint on a stone tablet?
A clay tablet.
And then he kept them. So, I'm just saying, non-zero chance. Okay? Okay.
It's like a restaurant owner keeping a fucking screenshot library of all the best negative reviews on Yelp for their restaurant.
Okay, but
me.
I understand that. Some of you guys leaving negative reviews get pretty creative.
I have not seen any negative reviews to our podcast. I am happy to say.
Oh, sorry. I'll get right on that.
I think people just leave if they don't like us. And you know what? Good. This is in an airport. You don't have to announce your departure. Anyway, so how are you, Ethan? What goes on? What's new? What's new in Kansas?
So I am here. It is the end of April, which means lightning storms abound, which I absolutely love. But you know, that's just me. I'm doing a lot of welding. Have
you seen the videos from Houston?
I have seen the videos from Houston. I'm really hoping that oh god, what's his name? The storm chaser who makes the awesome music.
Pico's Hank.
Pico's Hank. I almost said Pedro Hank. Close. I'm really hoping Pico's Hank made it down there because it just was nuts.
I saw something really kind of terrifying today. There was a tornado captured. I don't know if it was the one in Houston, but there was a tornado captured, I think in Oklahoma, whose radar cross section and wind speed like data looked like our hurricane. The tornado was so big and so powerful it had an eye on radar. But it was categorized in F2 because it just tore up a field, because the tornado rating scale is not velocity based, it's damage based. So you could have the most powerful tornado on record tear some corn up in a field and it's classified in F1, but a fairly strong tornado that wipes out a downtown area is an F5.
That sounds kind of counterproductive.
It is super counterproductive because that does not tell me how actually dangerous that tornado is. So, yeah, tornadoes are terrifying but weirdly beautiful from a distance. Please stay safe if you live anywhere. If you live between the two mountain ranges, basically, between if you're west of Denver, east of Richmond, Virginia, just you're pay attention. Like,
Although, if you live in the Appalachians, be careful there too.
oh yeah,
Not for tornadoes necessarily.
don't whistle in the woods, all that good shit. So yeah,
God,
you said you
I
were
really gotta
welding.
quit. I really gotta quit alienating the audience with these little quips I get in.
Yeah, I mean, they love you.
Mm,
Um,
they should.
so I mean, but they do. They, you said welding. How's the car coming?
The
Sorry, I
car
had
is
zoned out for
coming.
a second.
The floor pans are finally in. I am on the windshield channels, and once the windshield channels are done, it gets fucking thrown back together at a rate you would not believe. It's just it's tearing it apart, cleaning every individual part, repainting the parts that needed it, storing it. It's quite a lengthy process.
Okay, so two questions. One,
Yeah.
percentage wise, how close are you to it being drivable?
Like in terms of overall work done that needs to be done.
Like, when can you turn the key and drive it? Because I know that's like your ultimate goal. Like not drive like I am done working on this car. It is now a car I can drive regularly. Like, how close are you to the short term goal of I want to press gas pedal and make car roll forward? Like,
65 to 70%.
okay. And then how close are you to the ultimate goal of I have a restored, maybe not like show floor quality car, but like painted interior, like it looks like a car that is well taken care of and put together.
10%.
I
It
am
was it,
terrified that drivable is 10% in that category.
don't get it right, just get it running. If I die in that car, no, I died happy. I
I
feel like I say that a lot, but I also feel like I do enough stupid shit to warrant it.
I was about to say, you've said that about most of the cars I've known you to own, and you have legitimately almost died in about half of them. So
Up.
you
Actually,
see my concern.
I kind of theorized that I'm already dead because the one that happened in the Infinity up at Winton, I'm pretty sure I was knocked unconscious. So, kind of what I'm thinking is this is a figment of either a comatose or dead brain, and this is just my hell. So,
That's funny because we got a comment on one of our tweets that says, Ethan, if you can hear us, please, we love you. Wake up. No, I'm kidding. That's fucked up. I am so bad. That is horrible. Why the fuck did I just do that?
uh,
Oh,
I was
that.
going to ask you about Woodbatch, but now.
Oh yeah, I have. So hi everyone. I haven't posted the video for the last episode yet again, and we're recording this episode on Thursday before it comes out. And I'm gonna be honest, there is a non-zero chance that there's not a podcast on Monday that gets uploaded because so many things are happening. Work just got more complicated because of a client's order that we are going to be doing over the course of the next several months. I am taking Wood Badge, which, for those of you that are not in the know, it is the highest adult leader training that the scouting organization offers in the United States, at least. Which is kind of cool because it comes directly from when Baden Powell started scouting. Basically, he got all the adult leaders for the troops in England together in the late 1910s and said, "Hey, here's how the program works, and to teach it to you, you guys are all gonna basically play act being the scouts, and we're gonna run a troop for a week." So that's essentially the training I'm in the middle of, which involves a whole load of coursework and a project and all that hoo ha on top of being scoutmaster, which will be interesting and stressful. But yeah, things are going, things are happening. We're coming up to the end of season 2. This is the second to last episode we're going to be talking about today. So yeah,
Some
it's
might
going to be
refer to that as
chaotic.
penultimate. I think that's
Penultimate. Yes, the penultimate episode for season 2. And I'll be honest, before we get into this, it's going to be a little scuffed. I have no notes. I have some tabs open. We're kind of winging this because it needs to happen today or it doesn't happen at all. So yeah, so let's. Are we ready to get into it?
Aye, Captain.
Fabulous. So today's episode is season 2, episode 23, Mail Call. Uh, Directed by Alan Alda. I think this is our second. I think it's our second Alan Alda episode.
You say that as a question as if I would know.
Well, I know we've had at least one. I just can't remember what it is. It's gonna get hard because he ends up directing quite a number of mashes. Yeah, he directs 32 mashes over the course of his time with the show. Oh no, this is our okay. This is our first directed by Alan Alda. We have probably had a written by Alan Alda.
Yeah, wasn't one of the Dear Dads written by Alan Alda?
No, our first written by Alan Alda was actually the Long John Flap.
That's
And
right.
then our second one was Dr. Pierce and Mr. Hyde. The one where Hawkeye can't sleep. Or doesn't sleep, rather.
Is it something we said? Is it something we didn't say?
Is it something we didn't say? So yeah, so Alan Alda is directing this episode, and the writers are Larry Gelbart and Lawrence Marks. So yeah, it's Mail Call. It's kind of a reverse Dear Dad. I kind of love these episodes. We get a couple like this where everyone gets mail and it's the catalyst for the episode. I think the next one we get is actually season 3. It's called Springtime. Lots of fun in that episode. But Radar gets the mail and is assaulted. He makes the mistake of letting everyone know the mail's here, and he is rightfully overwhelmed.
I love the look on his face when he's just standing like, there.
That's the face of someone who's making a mental note of what not to do again in the future. So we see that everyone has gotten mail. Trapper, who I will save this question for later. I just thought of a question, but I'll save it for later. We see that Trapper gets a picture of his 2 girls, Kathy and Becky. You generic white ass man. They sent cookies.
What the hell is Becky short for?
Bethany. I don't know. What? Yeah, because Becky has to be short for something. Because
Beckwelin. There we go. If Jackie is short for Jacqueline, Becky is short for Beckwelin.
Because Kathy can be Kathleen, Catherine.
Could you get
Cassandra
Becky from Beatrice? Maybe.
I mean, maybe. Let's do. I don't have any notes on anything. So sure, let's go off. What is Becky short for? Everyone's getting great typing noises because my microphone is hanging directly over my keyboard.
Oh, okay. Rebecca.
We're fucking idiots. All right, yeah. Show's over. Thank you for listening. God damn it! How are we this stupid? Audience. I want you to please message us. If you are listening, there is in the description, there is a button that says share your thoughts with the show, something like that, in the very under the episode description, but then at the top of the social media list. Press that off if you're listening on your phone. I want you to send a message to us right now and say how soon after we asked the question, what is Becky short for, did you out loud say Rebecca? Because I know someone did, and we are so fucking stupid.
Also, if any of you out there are named Rebecca, hit me up.
You know what's sad? I'm pretty sure there might be at least one. I'm guarantee I've seen one Rebecca that follows us.
I'm so sorry.
I am so sorry. We're so sorry, Rebecca. Man, I think we might need to be done for tonight.
Yep.
That might be it.
Wrap it up, boys.
Oh, shit. Anyway, so yeah, Kathleen and Rebecca McIntyre. Not bad names, if I'm being honest. Can I get your opinion on a baby name?
Yeah, like for these two specific.
No, a person in my life just became a grandfather.
Wow.
Uh, so I am curious. I am curious of what you think of. This is a name for a grandson, a boy child. Callan, Callen.
I kind of dig it, but he's gonna really hate it when people start calling him Lenny.
Mm, Cal. Hey, short for Cal. Cal. You can go by Cal. Unfortunately, there's only two Cals I know of. Oh no, that's Al. Never mind. I know of one Cal, and it's the asshole boyfriend fiance from the Titanic movie.
God, this poor newborn just getting torn apart mercilessly on a podcast. What did he do to deserve this? He didn't even fuck around. He just found out.
He's literally been on this planet for less than like 48 hours. So I just thought of that. Just
Yeah.
thoughts. Um, I mean, I can't complain. My brothers and I have the most generic, like normal people names, so we got lucky. But anyway, so Trapper got uh gifts from his two daughters, pictures, all that jazz. Hawkeye, this is the I want to say it's like the third or fourth mention of his sister that will eventually not exist because, writing TV was not an easy thing. Uh he gets a way oversized sweater from his sister.
Looks
Uh
comfortable as fuck
it
though.
looks comfortable as fuck. I'm not going to lie. Pause real quick because I meant to do this before we got into this episode. I would like to sidetrack for a moment.
We
Um,
never do that though. Like
I would
I
like to
don't think
sidetrack. I would like to sidetrack because the sweater Hawkeye is wearing is so fabulous. It reminded me of the last episode. So I would like to quickly say to everyone who left fabulous comments, I really need to not use the word fabulous when talking about this. I feel like it
yeah, I'm
sort of
gonna
sends
tell
the wrong
you
message.
honestly, you absolutely have increased your usage of the word fabulous like tenfold since you came
So
out to me.
part of that is because it's a joke on fucking the cigar podcast to say the cigar is fabulous.
Okay.
It's like the go-to adjective, and it makes one of the hosts weird, not like jokingly uncomfortable. He's not genuinely uncomfortable, but he points it out every time. But also, I started the episode by calling you bitch in like the sassiest way, so
Yeah, but
Uh,
that's been par for the course as long as I've known you.
so to everyone that left very nice comments on the various places you leave comments, thank you. Many of them were directed personally toward me. Appreciate it. Long story short, Ethan, because I know you are not on the hell site known as X. Um, very people were very appreciative and supportive about how we approached George. So, yay.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I really am.
But anyway.
But alas.
Uh Henry gets a top secret letter from regimental headquarters that Radar agrees probably wasn't really that top secret. Uh, a a coupon for Madam Wang's House of Massage. Is that what it is? Is it Madam Wang? Oh, no, it's Madam Wank's Casa de Massage. That's even worse.
That
God
is so
damn
much
it.
worse.
The subtitles say Madam Wank's. Okay, is that now the dirtiest joke that has been slid into MASH? There was one. What was it earlier this season that was one of the dirtiest jokes?
Was it the note that Trapper wrote for
No,
Clear?
that's like the actual censor rating, like the
Okay.
F word. Give the
Give the
guard a
guard a
fucking
fucking
gallon of
gallon.
of phenobarbital. Um, no, it was the behind every good man is a woman with a vibrator. That
Yep, that's
Hawkeye
what it
says.
was. Yep.
Yeah, that's what it was. Madam Wank's Casa de Massage might be up there with that. Like, I that it goes by so quick. I don't think you catch it. Um, and Radar is smitten with the idea of a tiny Orienta walking on his bare back with her bare feet.
Yeah, he kind of fixates on the feet a little too much for me to be
Or
comfortable.
I don't think it's the feet. I think it's the concept of Radar is now learning that that is something two people could do. Like this poor Iowa farm boy is like, why would someone walk on your back with their bare feet? And then he's starting to think about it. And he's like, why am I not confused by this? Why do I want this? Oh, Radar. Um, Henry seems to have forgotten. Ethan, I don't know if you remember. Henry agreed several episodes ago. I believe it was it Henry in Love? It may have been Henry in Love.
I believe it
Where
was Henry in Love because the
where
balance,
he
the checkbook was the
yes.
catalyst for him.
Yes. He promised that if she sent the check stubs, he would attempt to balance the checkbook. And here we are. Solid continuity, whether it's intended or unintended. He has the entire box of check stubs, which he thought was a chocolate cake with have you ever had someone who makes the sour cream style icing that Henry describes?
One time at a potluck.
Now, when I was a kid, I thought this was gross. I'm like, why would you put sour cream in icing? No, hang on. Wait a minute.
You don't understand.
You don't understand. It doesn't make it taste like sour cream. It just oh my god. Yeah, sour cream based icings are good, but you have to it takes a little bit of skill to get right, I think. But yeah. Uh Radar is still transfixed on the Madam Wanks advertisement. Side note, let's talk inflation because we haven't done that in a few episodes.
Yeah.
Here's a vet bill. $236
I would scoff at that today.
for treating a 15-year-old cat.
Are we doing 1970s money when the show was made?
Oh, no, 1950s, baby. If I remember correctly, it's a roughly multiply by 11, so that's roughly a $2,300 bill. If my math is right.
In 1954, it was closer to 2,700.
Okay. Yeah.
How the fuck? How the fuck do you spend that? Never mind.
That is a roughly approximate to my 40-hour a week monthly pay. I love my pets when I have them. I don't have any pets currently. Probably because I didn't spend $2,700 to take them to the vet. I love my pets. I can't justify a mortgage payment.
See, that's the rational side of your brain. Pets make you irrational. I've done incredibly stupid things for my pets and probably will do so until I die.
So my our dog way back when was bit by a rattlesnake. So my dad's like, okay, I have 3 prepubescent boys in my house who are very attached to this dog. I'm going to at least investigate how much it would be to get anti-venom for this dog. $1,000. And my dad's like, okay, I now need to come to terms with the fact that I'm going to have to walk my children through the death of a beloved dog.
He decided to get the anti-venom, didn't he?
No, he didn't.
Oh,
the
no.
dog, no, he did not.
Oh, God.
The dog was luckily big enough that he just powered through.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. My dad heard $1,000 and he's like, so listen.
Hey, kids, life lesson time.
Yeah. But that honestly, I think that happened like toward the end of the recession. So like $1,000 was not like an amount of money you could just like frivolously spend. Like,
oh, holy
like
fuck,
I get
man.
it.
Yeah. 2008, 2009, 2010 were fucking
and like
rough.
the dog was like 10, so it's not like it was like a puppy. It's like the dog been around a bit, like so.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sad.
I, I can't. I could not justify spending $2,700 of today's money on a 15-year-old cat. That doesn't mean I hate animals. I just want to be fiscally responsible. Think about how much love I could give to another cat for that $2,700. You know what I mean? Like, this cat's been with me for 15 years. It's time, right? Think about how many cats I could adopt with $2,700. Think about that,
You
PETA.
know what the
Want to come
difference
after
between
me?
you and me is, Anthony? You know what?
What?
Deep down at our core, you know what it is? You are logical.
Mhm.
I am emotional.
Yes, which is why I really don't want to ask this question, but it's like, Ethan, if your dad came to you right now, not like life threatening, like, or maybe even life threatening. Let's say it is a matter of you've got like a week time frame to make this decision. Your cat Deets, $2,700 tonight, right now.
Without hesitation.
Do you even have $2,700 to drop on a cat? Because
And I
if you
got to
do, why the fuck am I saving up $2,000? That's Let me put this into reference for you, Ethan. That is my entire trip to Kansas and back for your cat.
I would get the money together somehow. I would sell.
And then instead of bringing me out to visit you,
Yep.
what I'm getting at is I'm self-conscious and I'm angry you love your cat more.
No. It's not a competition. Like if I had to save you or Dietz from a cliff, like I can only grab one. I'm gonna
That's not what
save
I'm
you.
asking. I'm saying, would you rather me come visit you in Kansas, or would you repair your cat?
Okay, do you sit on my shoulder and purr when I get home from a really bad day at work?
Have
I
you
didn't think
ever
so.
asked me to?
You know what? You make a fair
Man,
point.
this episode is so gone. We
Yep.
fucked it. I think this episode was over when we couldn't figure out Rebecca. Um,
This episode was over when I realized I wasn't drinking gin. I'm drinking clear whiskey, which is either the best or worst drink I've ever had in my life.
mm,
The taste
mm.
buds are kind of out on that one.
Do you know what I had the other day, courtesy of friend Zach Crawford?
What's that?
Apple brandy.
That sounds delicious.
It was fantastic. It actually
That
tasted like
sounds
apples.
appley and cinnamony and smoky and just.
No cinnamon,
I
just
want to
straight.
drink.
It was apple wine that was further distilled.
I want
That's
to
all it
drink
is.
that in front of a roaring fireplace in like a velvet robe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Man, we're so lost. What's happening? Oh yeah, Madam
We are
Wake
4 minutes into
Cassidy
this episode.
dude, we're not even 4. We're like at 3.5. So we hop back to Hawkeye and Trapper. Trapper is still going on about his daughters, and he muses, and I point this out because it's going to be an interesting conversation for the future. He points out, I guess I'm boring when I talk about my kids, huh? And uh, Hawkeye responds positively, like, no, as a matter of fact, that's when you're the least boring. So, Ethan,
Yes,
how many people in your life, like acquaintances, do you have that have le children?
quite a few.
Okay. Do you have any? I'm asking because I don't really have
Yeah,
that many close acquaintances that have children. I know a lot of people that I like grew up with that have children, but not any that I hang out with frequently.
right.
Do Are any of them those people that are just like, oh my god, Steve Mantha, Jim did this at school today, and oh my god, we're so like, oh my god, she pooped for the first time in a toilet. Like, do you know anyone that's just shut the fuck up about your child? Like, do you ever get that way, or not, or do you just not give a shit?
I don't have anyone that talks about them so relentlessly that it annoys me. But
Mm-hmm.
then again, given my generic personality as it is, I have a pretty high tolerance for annoyance.
True. True.
So, uh, Nobody's ever gone that far. But you know what? At
Hold
the
on.
end of the
Whoa,
day,
whoa, 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 whoa. I'm gonna save us a whole lot of messages. Hi, Ethan and I.
you know,
We understand that we aren't parents and we do not know the true joy of having our own child. That being said, we're moving on.
I mean, statistically speaking, I might have a bastard child out there somewhere.
No, 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 don't put that into the universe. Don't do it.
Okay. Yep. Fair
Don't
enough.
do it. Don't do it. Yeah. No, I because the reason I ask, because this conversation is going to come up again in the future. So I'm curious what if you had an experience where you're like, this person will not shut up about Jacqueline, Timothy, Bouvier, Kennedy, Onassis, whatever the heck their kid's name is.
I think
But yeah,
despite Hawkeye kind of saying it in his normal ironic tone, oh, it's snow, it's the only time you're not boring. I think deep down, he probably, despite the one night stands, despite the hitting on anything that moves, he's probably a romantic at heart and
hmm
ultimately wants that sort of nuclear family. So hearing about it from
Ooh.
someone else is probably
Mm.
like a really lovely time for him.
So okay, so I'm gonna say this right now. This episode's fantastic because it opens up so many interesting avenues for different characters. Okay, you brought up something I'm gonna ask you now because I'm curious.
Hmm.
Given what you know about Hawkeye,
Yeah.
could you see him being a committed husband and father? Could let's break that
Hmm.
up into two. Can you
Yeah.
see him getting married, like a committed relationship?
Not as he is currently, but with time, given what character development I've seen so far in these two seasons, yes.
Hmm.
Like as he is right now in this scene, probably not,
Okay.
but I'm not exactly an authority on marriage.
What think you of Hawkeye siring a child intentionally?
You
Because
remember when the episode where they take in the Korean soldier and he makes a scene that causes one of Trapper's patients to die?
yes.
And the very heartfelt scene where he walks in on Trapper's sort of losing his mind, and that's not what we're about. This is right, that particular scene.
Mm-hmm.
At his core, I think Hawkeye, no matter the challenge, will step up and do the right thing. Which
Okay.
means I think realistically, if he were to knock up someone, he
Well,
would
that's why I
probably,
made it very
yeah,
clear
yeah,
intentionally sire a child.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah. Because I
I
think
think
I think Hawkeye is very much the type of person that he knows his modus operandi, and I would imagine Hawkeye, despite his tendencies, I would imagine Hawkeye to be very careful in that regard, at least. But
I believe he would be a very committed father, probably a less committed husband.
hmm, interesting. Mike, Scott, Bella, take a breath. We'll get there eventually. All
I'm
right.
sorry.
No, I would like to think that our well-seasoned MASH audience is breathing a sigh of interesting question to ask Ethan, because I'm trying to get better at picking things that you say and going, ooh, that's actually going to come up later. Let's ask Ethan a question about that.
I wouldn't pick apart what I say too much because the things that
No,
come out of my
you
mouth.
asked without giving away anything else. You asked a very interesting you asked a very interesting kind of thing about Hawkeye's character, and I wanted to press you on it because it might come up again. Um,
Neat.
we see Frank come in. Frank is this is a good this is a good episode for Frank, and what I mean by that is it is it is an episode that lets Frank be Frank in all the ways that we love him to be Frank, and you can tell Larry Linville's having fun with it. I very much love Frank in this episode. What'd you get in mail call today? I got a letter from my lawyers. What is it? It's Hand, Henderson, Landers, and Flynn. I bet
I've
they
never
fit me, I
gotten a letter
swear.
from lawyers that was good, but one day I
Or no,
hope to
is
be
it?
able
Does
to
he
get.
say it's his lawyers or his stockbrokers?
I don't know.
Oh, it's from his stockbrokers. More important than that, it's
Okay.
from my stockbrokers, Henderson, Landers, and Flynn. Uh, Speaking of inflation, you're looking at a man who is $2,000 richer than he was. Is this it last month or last year? Than he was a month ago. So what, like 22 grand? Is that roughly what if I'm ballparking?
Yeah,
20,
probably closer to
23 grand?
24,
Homie just
which,
made 24 grand. Like, okay, Frank. Damn, okay. So Frank just made 24 grand in stock. Again, I don't know how the stock market, literally insert stonks meme here.
well, good news for both of us. I'm actually something of a stalker myself, so
No,
uh,
that's I really thought you were actually going to say, well, good news for both of us. I actually took a class on this in my business major. No, I'm a stalker. I really thought we were going to have like a wholesome educational moment. And Ethan's like, no.
Anthony, when have I ever educated you on anything except for
Oh,
maybe the
fuck.
dangers of reckless driving?
And you weren't even like educating. You were just like being an example of what not to do. Anyway, so yeah, Frank made 24 grand overnight essentially, which is, I mean, we're going to meet a character who I guarantee Frank says later in this episode, I can buy and sell you. Yeah, we're going to meet a character who I'm pretty sure his family could buy and sell Frank and his entire state. But we'll get there when we get there. But obviously uh Hawkeye and Trapper poking fun at Frank. Uh I love this is one of my favorite lines. Unlike you, I don't waste my time drinking and chasing women. We're thinking of chasing only drinking women. Cuts down cuts down on the oh I hate trying to find the subtitles in this. We're thinking of chasing only drinking women. Eliminates one process. So
Oh,
Frank goes on to explain that he has made this money because he bought stock options in companies that would be profitable during war. Which Frank does say, and he is not wrong. The economy and stocks always do better during wartime because the industries are funded and incentivized to produce goods for the war.
yeah, let's be honest.
Arguably, that's what pulled us firmly out of the Great Depression was producing war material.
Yeah.
But you know,
Y the military industrial complex is always a safe bet on Wall Street, you know? Just
this episode is sponsored by Boeing Aviation. Boeing is a trustworthy and reliable company. And oh, hang on, I spilled some coffee on the script. I mean, the notes they sent me. I mean, the
mm,
notes I wrote. I mean, the
yep.
nothing.
Hey, there's this weird laser pointer on my chest.
uh, anyway, um, why is there an unmarked van with a bumper sticker that says Raytheon across from my office? No. So Frank made his money off of purchasing stocks and companies that would do well during wartime. Uh, and makes the comment, war always increases stock prices. Any idiot knows that. Hawkeye, great comeback for this. Oh yeah, then what happened to my 10,000 shares of Gestapo? Which
Damn.
I love. The World War II nerd in me loves that fucking line. uh, uh, Hawkeye then explains that he comes from a long line of money grubbers. His grandfather, uh, Tombstone Pierce made his money selling whiskey and hors d'oeuvres to the Indians. Now, here's what I love about this little exchange. Hawkeye very clearly wants someone to ask, because, like, giving whiskey to the Indians is like the trope, right? You know, the
Mhm.
firewater thing, right? I love that Hawkeye clearly baits a hook with the and hors d'oeuvres part, and Trapper knows Hawkeye well enough to know, like, okay, I'll bite and hors d'oeuvres, Gracie. He used to say, "What's a drink without a nosh?" Which,
But
again, great writing. I love the writing of that little back and forth. Like, clearly Hawkeye's cast a line out there for someone to bite, and Trapper, being akin to Hawkeye in that way, is like, okay, you left the door open, hit me in the face with it. Why the hors d'oeuvres? But also, I'm sorry, French people, if you're listening, how dare you spell hors d'oeuvres that way?
Ors devours. That's the dumbest fucking thing. Why I don't respect the French. Don't laugh. I'm serious.
So,
God,
Frank
I'm
Storm,
just. Go on.
we're in a mood tonight. Uh, so Frank storms out, and Trapper comments, who cares? Frank's gonna do his thing. Which, I'll be honest, I would say that's fairly, like, Trapper loves fucking with Frank, but he doesn't. Correct me if I'm wrong. I read Trapper as Trapper is kind of a take it as it comes kind of guy. He doesn't get too. He has things that personally upset him that we will talk about later and that we have seen happen in the past. But, like, when ceasefire happened, he's like, "Hey, not a big deal. This is probably how it's going to go down. I'm not worrying about it. Frank's making money off the war. Okay, a lot of people are. He's the least of our concern if that is your frustration. Whatever, let him do his thing." But Hawkeye is like, "No, no, no, I think he is worth the time. In fact, I take pen in hand to fuck with Frank." I am curious, Ethan,
Yo.
do you think that's a good read on Trapper, first of all? Do you think Trapper is. I'm not saying Trapper doesn't, like, he doesn't not care about war profiteering. He doesn't not care about, like, in ceasefire. He's not saying that the war shouldn't end. He's like, look, I know we've seen this before. It's probably not a true ceasefire. Is he cynical? Is he realistic? Like, what? How do you read that part of Trapper? Because it's something we've seen a couple times.
I think in order for Trapper to act on his own accord, there needs to be some form of clear and present danger or more issue of morality,
Mm-hmm.
imminent threat of something that he cannot abide going on.
Like,
Frank, go ahead.
no, go ahead. No, no, no. You finish your thought.
Frank making money off the war it doesn't really affect him enough for it to be his problem when there's so much else going on. He's just going to poke at him a little because he's being so high and mighty about it. So I very much agree with your assessment. I suppose what I'm saying. I don't think enough of his internal criteria have been met to actually mount, a Hawkeye-esque assault on Frank, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And okay. I like this.
I really
I'm gonna.
appreciate you pretending to understand that.
No, 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 no. It makes sense. It makes sense. Because I've always read Trapper as, in a weird way, and this isn't just because they're both from South Boston. I kind of, I kind of read him in a little, very little bit the same way I read Will Hunting in Good Will Hunting. Like, I'm just here doing my thing. I'm going with the flow. Fuck you. I'm not going to worry myself about it because ultimately most of it doesn't directly affect me. Like, obviously that they're very different characters, but there is that little bit of overlap, I think.
Yeah.
I like, but Hawkeye, and we will see this trait of Hawkeye, I think it's more powerful as the war goes on and the series goes on. Hawkeye will see the opportunity to fuck with someone. Fuck with them is not the right word because he does this a couple times to a couple characters and he has the right intentions. Frank making money and being giddy about making money off of companies that are profiting from the war. And again, someone's got to make the bullets, right? Like, I'm not angry that Northrop Grumman built F-8F Wildcats in the Second World War. Like, someone had to build the plane. Sorry, like,
Yeah.
sucks. But I appreciate Hawkeye's frustrations. Like, we're here fighting a war that doesn't make sense. We're putting together people who have been injured in this war by the weapons that Frank is like fourth party making money off of. Like, I get why Hawkeye's frustrating, but Hawkeye will hyperfixate and make it his problem. And he does that a lot. And a lot of times it's justified and good, and Hawkeye is our hero. But there are a couple times where it's like, Hawkeye, man, like, I agree with the message, not with your methods. But I again, I'm planting seeds for future conversations we're gonna have
No, and what I
in
would
like 10
say
years.
in response to that is he's a very much fight the system kind of guy. And when the
Hmm.
system is too far away or too big to fail, he will find victims of it, if you will,
Hmm.
or people benefiting off of it and fuck with them instead.
I think Hawkeye's a fight the system. Trapper's more fuck the system. Like,
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
and he will fight the system, but most of the time he's gonna be like, meh, not my fight right now. And again, that's
And
not a knock on Trapper. That's just two different personalities coming at the same problem. But once Hawkeye takes initiative, Trapper's on board.
and
Like,
Frank Burns, I'm guessing, like from my read on him, ultra religious mother, absent father, older brother that probably didn't like him all that much.
man, that is an excellent read on Frank, I think. Probably a very, very over religious protective mother, absentee and or abusive father, and a older brother that took after the father. I think that is 100%. Man, I can't wait to talk about Frank more in future episodes. Man, Frank, like I said, Frank is going to be my favorite character disassembly, I think, once we get to that point.
Absolutely.
Because, man, I I genuinely feel bad for people like Frank because all they needed. Again, we won't get into it now. I have a whole speech ready for when we get to Frank. So yeah, so Hawkeye has a plan to fuck with Frank, and we will see it unfold throughout the episode. Hey, we're 6 minutes into the episode now. Um,
Hell yeah.
how are we going to get Frank to find this letter? Quite simple. I'll hide it. Um, we then see Margaret. Margaret has also received packages from the mail call. Major Burns comes to visit her, and she is very much preening herself in front of him. She's in her new nightgown. She's in her sheer hose. She's in her dainty house heels, house slippers, house whatever those are. Like, look what I got in the mail today, Frank. And Frank, I need you to read the room better, bud.
Yeah.
Frank, I really need you to like open up those eyes. Oh, Margaret, your toe straighteners came. Frank, you make it so easy to hate you.
You know, it's really not his fault when it feels like more often than not we're seeing Frank say some out of pocket, off the wall, why the fuck would you say that shit? And Margaret just falls for it completely.
But she does. But she does. So Frank catches himself and he almost recovers. You didn't have to do that. And you see Margaret start to lean in and smile. I'd love you even if you were naked. And then
And
her face just
yeah,
drops. I fucking love Loretta Swit.
missed it by that
She's
much.
thanks a whole bunch, Frank. Uh Frank then starts bragging about how well his stocks are doing, and I love Margaret goes, Mrs. Frank Burns. Where? Which interesting note, we're gonna sidetrack again. So Ethan and I mostly I'll say first, I went ahead and laid out the calendar for season 3 when we roughly what date we would be recording each episode on, just so we had a ballpark idea of like around what time of year. Audience, you will never guess. If we finish up season 3 in the next couple weeks, do a wrap up episode and then a watch a movie, like I think I'm leaning Bonzo Goes to College just because we've talked about it a couple times.
You
And the
fucker.
concept is it's Ronald Reagan with a fucking capuchin monkey on screen. How can you not want to watch that even?
You're right.
But we might put it to a vote. I'm not sure what other movies we have discussed. Yes, I know Easy Rider, calm down. But I did the math and guess what episode we would be recording, audience, while I was on the road or in Kansas. If you guessed Abyssinia Henry, you are correct. And I do not want to try to record that episode on the road. So we do have to think of something for filler to kind of push that episode out a little bit more into next summer. There is a MASH script, and we have talked about this before on the show, I think. There is a MASH script that was never used that you can find a rough copy of online for an episode set in seasons 1 or 2, I think, called Father Hawkeye Knows Best. I don't want to give away everything, but the plot of the episode is an Indiana senator is coming to visit the MASH during the congressional, junket season, right? Going out to, shake babies, kiss hands, see where they can push their influence, in the war industry, in the military, all that stuff. He is traveling to the MASH unit, this Indiana senator or congressman, with his secretary, one Mrs. Frank Burns.
I really, really, really want to do a table read of that script.
I know you do. And I forgot to send you, because we talked about this a couple weeks back. I need to send you the link to Mashcast with Rob Kelly. They table read 2 episodes for the 50th anniversary, and they
That's
came out
awesome.
really good. So I think that might be something we do. It probably won't be for a while. It probably won't be till the very end or very beginning of next year, while we're in the middle of season 3, because I want to make sure I get the script. I want to. That's not one that's just going to happen, shoot from the hip. I want to make sure it's done nice, because
I
that's
don't
getting
think
a
we've
lot.
ever done anything shoot from the hip.
No, never. I don't have any notes for this episode. So that is something, but I love that Mrs. Frank Burns, where? um and Margaret mentions, well, you said if you were ever rich enough, you would divorce your wife. Now hold it. Wait a minute, fella. No one said I was rich. I said I was doing well. Well, what's the difference between rich and well, Frank? Well, it's okay. Well is okay, but to be rich, you got to be a little more than well. Frank, your upper lip is disappearing. Margaret, I can't afford a wife and an ex-wife. That's and freaking, I love Loretta. Margaret, oh, that's a shame, Frank. Because these shoes also come in clear plastic. You can see what each little toe is doing. Yeah, you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of feet in this episode, I'm realizing.
Yeah, I tried to tell you.
Man. And then Frank promises he will get rich by any means necessary, which unintentionally sets the catalyst for what we will see in a little bit. We then get what might be some of the most iconic Henry Blake and Klinger scenes. Probably the best Henry Blake and Klinger scene, apart from one that we have not seen yet. Henry is trying to balance his wife's checkbook. Radar comes in and says Klinger would like to see you. And he's like, no, not today. Nope. And Radar persuades him and says, I think you should, sir. He's got a new dress. Oh, well, if he's fussed, bring him in. I love how Henry is just completely just fine with everything that's happening.
I gotta say, the precision on his rifle twirling, pretty good. You know,
But so here's the thing, he's a soldier. Like, he is the the most soldiery person in the unit right now. The gimmick is he is dead serious, but wearing women's clothes. That is his whole shtick. He is trying to convince someone that he is broken in this weird way, and it's so funny to watch. And again, I need to start going back and like time stamping the many outfits of Klinger. This is he wearing the green dress that make that I'm wondering if that's the dress that made him look like oh, what was the one from a few episodes ago where he showed the picture to Father Mulcahy? Rita Hayworth in oh god, what was the picture? Oh, I can't remember. Damn. I'm irritated now.
was it Gilda?
It was Gilda. It was Gilda. Yeah, 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 yeah.
That is not the
Because it
dress,
was
and I will tell you because I looked up Rita Hayworth and Gilda, and that is not a dress you forget. It's a very good
okay.
looking dress,
Because
but
I thought I remembered the dress being described as like green. That's why I was wondering. But he's
it
wearing
is an
his
emerald green, but it is I don't know how to describe dresses. I don't know anything about fashion.
yes.
All the way down to covering the legs, down to the shoes. Uh,
Okay.
um,
So
not
it's more of a long
yeah,
yeah. Okay.
not sleeveless, but no straps over the shoulders. I know
So
there's a term for that.
so we will get many more opportunities going forward than we have in the past. So let's take a moment. Klinger's outfit. We've got the kind of copper knitted hat, the large gold earrings, the genuine imitation fox fur stole, a I can't tell if that's a watch or just a bracelet on the macrame white gloves, white matching white purse, emerald green, but not sequins. Like matte is the only way I could think to describe. I'm not a fashion person. Don't come at me, audience. With the black heels, and at first glance I go, man, that's weird, but the more I look at it, it's like the purse with the gloves, the nature tones in the articles of clothing chosen. Like, I don't hate it. I'm being honest, don't hate it. Klinger does have a genuine sense of fashion, I think.
Well, he's been at this for what, at least a year at this point.
Oh yeah.
So, you know,
But like anyone can just throw on a dress and say they're crazy, but like Klinger is putting in an immense effort, but also I would argue, and anyone who is fashion savvy in the audience, please let me know, mostly pulling it off like 90% of the time. Like, I'm just saying, it seems to work most of the time. But also, in a non-universe, outside the universe of MASH, that is also big props to the costume department for for the for the production. Like, they are on top of it. So Klinger comes in and he has a letter that he got um, in mail call, and he begins reading to Henry what his problem is. It is a letter from his mother saying that I fucking love this. That his father is very sick and he needs to go home for his birthday or funeral, whatever comes first. And Henry's like, okay, give me just a second. Pulls out a file and just flips through all the other times Klinger has done. Uh huh. See, father dying, right? Mm hmm. Father dying last year. Mother dying last year. Mother dying and older sister pregnant. Father dying, mother pregnant. And he just reads through them, getting to the end where it's an oldie but a goodie. Half of the family dying, other half pregnant. I I have nothing to say about this scene because it is so. Ethan, do you have any thoughts? Because I've seen this scene so many times that I don't know what I want. if anything I can say about it.
The only thing I can say is that it is really going to suck for Klinger if one of his parents becomes gravely ill.
Oh, okay. So I have not thought about that. Well, yeah, because Klinger tells a lot of fibs. Interesting. So, Ethan,
Yo.
I will ask you a question
Uh-huh.
because it just came to me. Would you be interested if an episode was Klinger getting caught in one of his own lies because something actually happened and no one believes it?
Oh, absolutely. I'm
Okay.
waiting for my Klinger episode. And I think as far as
Oh,
Klinger
you
episodes
are.
go, that's a really good one. That's a really good idea.
See, the thing about Klinger, because of some of the changes the show goes through, Klinger and Father Mulcahy, we talked about this at the end of season 1. Klinger and Father Mulcahy will become major tent poles of the show. Every character in their own right is a tent pole of the show, but Klinger and Father Mulcahy, for being not contracted at the beginning of the series, by the end they are used very regularly for some amazing storytelling. And also, I think of all the characters on the show, Klinger has the best relationship with everybody. Like, for example, Radar and Hawkeye have a really solid relationship with each other. Margaret and Hawkeye have an interesting dynamic throughout the show. But as far as how one character gets along with every other character, I think Klinger is my favorite to see interacting with every character at some point. But that is a later conversation. I think my favorite thing about this scene in particular is how straight they play it. Like it's not like, obviously you have the canned laughter in the background if you have it turned on, but there's the there's not it's not being done as a gag. It's being done genuinely, that Klinger is here trying to convince Henry, and Henry's like, "Uh-huh. Father dying last year. Mother," like it's being played for laughs, but in universe it's being played so bluntly. Like, Henry's just, yeah, all right, let's get this over with. You pulled it this time, you pulled it this time, you pulled it this time, you pulled it this time. Klinger, are you ashamed of yourself at all? Like, I love how like direct they play it. And then Klinger, you're right, sir. I shouldn't be in the army. Like, Klinger completely flips it. Like, no, I'm getting out. Like, this is the whole. We then see
Oh,
Frank reading. The ridiculousness to me of Frank reading the Bible and then immediately committing theft. Like, mm, so juicy. But Frank sees the letter under Hawkeye's pillow and begins to read it, which Hawkeye says, writing to his dad, "Thanks, sis, for the sweater. Uh, by the way, Senator Maggot's tip about Pioneer Aviation, could be the stock tip of a lifetime. A small investment could grow into millions." And I love when he reads that, Frank goes, "Oh," just now, because here's the crazy thing about this scene. We hear Hawkeye narrating the letter. Larry Linville's just sitting there quietly being Frank, reading this letter. He can't hear Alan Alda's narration. And it's done so well. Like, you can see him start to get flustered and, like, excited. And then when he can't.
dear dad.
Dear. Yeah, dear. Looks around. Dad. So good. And then he starts tearing up Hawkeye's stuff when he can't find the last line of the letter that says how high the stock could go. And Hawkeye is just leaning there like, I love everything that's happening. And I love that Trapper comes over and is like, "What are you doing?" And he points, and it takes Trapper a second to realize what he's looking at, and then he cracks up too when he realizes Frank is losing his collective shit. Having Pioneer Aviation. We need again. This is no longer a secret. We are trying to get some merch for the podcast. More news on that soon, I hope. But I think we need a Pioneer, like a Lockheed Martin Boeing-esque logo for Pioneer Aviation. To put on some shirts. With some sort of cheesy, Cold War era-esque tagline under it. But yeah. Ethan, you do art things. Draw that.
Yeah, I'm
Anyway.
artistic as fuck.
Yep, we love it. We do need to get together and talk about some of the ideas and how we can make them happen, because I desperately need Margaret's head on Marilyn Monroe's body with the upskirt subway vent.
Oh, Frank.
Going, oh, yeah. Frank.
Yeah, I need that. I need that
Also,
t-shirt out.
I forgot to mention it. Did you catch that when she said each little toe is up to, she's blowing in Frank's ear afterwards?
I did not catch that.
I caught it for the first time watching this episode. And if you turn the volume up, you can almost hear her blowing. But yeah, she's 100% blowing in Frank's ear while he's like thinking about what she just said.
I love Loretta Swit so much.
Yeah, 100% she is. I just went back and looked. So Frank goes to Radar and says, I need to call a New York number. And he's trying to be discreet about it. And there's this wonderful, like, almost goes on for, I don't want to say it goes on for too long. It goes on for just the right amount of time of Radar trying to explain to Frank how time zones work. Which I don't think Radar fully understands how time zones work. He just understands that in order for Korea to call America, this is the time difference. And I don't think Radar fully understands. I mean, he does, but Radar doesn't know the why. He just knows the end result is this, and I kind of love that. I need to call them right now. We'll call them first thing in the morning. Well, you can't call them right now. You'd be calling them yesterday. Our today is there yesterday. And then Frank stops and he's like, I think I got a beat on it. If I
who's on first?
Yeah, it's almost a who's on first type scenario. I think I got a beat on it. In order for me to talk to them at 9 o'clock in the morning their time, what time does it have to be our win? 1 o'clock our tomorrow morning will get you 9 o'clock there today there, sir. Excellent, then that's what we'll do. Except I need a circuit and there's a 2-day wait. It's like, I love this scene this episode is so well written. And to Alan Alda's credit, it's so well directed. Like the way, because the dialogue comes from the writers, but the way it's shot and the way the characters move in and out of the scene and where they are in the scene is the direction. And it's done so well. Having Frank just bounce around the room while he's dictating the telegram is so good. So he sends a telegram off to his stockbrokers to have them sell immediately all shares regardless of market cost. Frank, you're blowing it. You never go all in, Frank. Like, come on. Why? Never go all in on information from a known enemy. Like, Frank, Sun Tzu, The Art of War. I know he wasn't white, but please, for God's sake, read the book. Like, come on, Frank. Jesus.
I love that. Despite I believe in Frank's mind that they're this point they are pretty much sworn enemies, right? In spite of that, he trusts them unconditionally.
But you have to remember, Frank thinks the letter's genuine. Frank has no concept that it might be a plant.
But you know what? At the end of the day, he has no way of knowing that. I will concede that point. But he still trusted the information enough from Hawkeye, regardless of who he said it was from, to sell everything. everything he owned.
Hmm.
That's got to be a leap of faith a little bit.
Yeah. Speaking of a leap of faith, Father Mulcahy.
Aw.
We see this is a nice little cutaway for a minute to see that Trapper is in the officers' club, drinking away the pain of not being at home for his daughters. And Father Mulcahy is trying to get some conversation going, but it is ultimately does not bear much fruit. So that is just a little cutaway to let you know Trapper not doing good. Trapper is frustrated. Trapper is not not feeling it, Mr. Krabs. We then get a storyline that is often cut in syndication. Radar wakes Hawkeye up from a little nap in the mess tent and asks for some advice. And there are a lot of great relationships between characters in the show. Henry and Radar is one that comes to mind. Uh, Margaret and Hawkeye. I say relationships. I mean it in a two two people and how their dynamic is,
Right,
not
yeah.
necessarily romantic. Like I said, Klinger has a pretty decent series of episodes with almost every character in the show at some point, just because he becomes a main, but he's still kind of one circle out from the core group for most of the show. So he has little vignettes with other characters, particularly Klinger and Margaret. I will give you a teaser. Klinger and Margaret have some wonderful episodes together,
That
but
is a duo I did not know I needed.
they have Klinger and Margaret, and Klinger and a character we haven't met yet. There are some wonderful character moments for Klinger with other characters in the show. But I think also Klinger and Colonel Potter when we eventually get him. But the relationship that I think is the most interesting to follow, especially in these early seasons, is Hawkeye and Radar. We talked about it. Well, and Hawkeye and Father Mulcahy too, now that I'm thinking about it. But Hawkeye and Radar, I think there are a lot of great choices made in how they write this relationship. I think there are some interesting choices on how they choose to write this relationship later on. But we're very much in the older brother, younger brother stage of the relationship. That's basically how the relationship is the entire show, but it's interesting. I'm excited to see how it goes, and I think we've seen a little bit of it with like the the love story episode, the Abak episode, and a couple other things. But I think this is our first solid multiple minutes of screen time dedicated to the how Radar looks up to Hawkeye and how Hawkeye cares about Radar. So,
Yeah.
Ethan, do you want to walk us through Radar? You're a Midwest farm boy. Can you speak to Radar's what Radar got going on? Can you let open us up to the thoughts of a Midwest farm boy 18-year-old? Please. I am intrigued.
I think human beings have a tendency to create their own hurdles in their life.
Mm,
I think in the absence of problems, a brain, if left to its own devices, will create problems to seek out to make things easier, for lack of a better term. And I think Radar, at the end of the day, is very ultimately quite self conscious. And
mm,
I don't say that to detract from him. I think that's a very human feeling and something I think we can all relate to. I know I can. So I can understand wanting to pretend that you are someone that you view as more desirable, if you will.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So yeah, so Radar explains to Hawkeye, well, I have this pen pal, da 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 da, and I want to get I need your help. How do I talk to this person? And he's clearly very smitten with her. He is excited to be writing to her, And I love as he's explaining this, Hawkeye is like smiling, like, "Okay, Radar, okay, proud of you. Like you're getting a little bit confidence to like." It's not like Radar met this girl in a bar and is like, "Well, hello, beautiful." It's like he has the confidence to write to another person
Wear the
and
paratrooper scarf.
wear the paratrooper scarf, Radar. Um, but as Radar is reading the letter he got back from the school, it becomes apparent that he has appropriated some of Hawkeye's features, yeah, including he just appropriated Hawkeye. Period. Like
Yeah,
he sent Hawkeye's picture to this young lady, and as it becomes clear, I love how Hawkeye obviously cares, but as he's reading, I think you and I have both done this, especially at summer camp with scouts. Hawkeye's just kind of zoning out, staring into the middle distance, and then he snaps to. He's like, "Wait, wait, wait, wait!" He finally like interpreted what Hawkeye was saying or what Radar was saying. He's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, stop! 6'2" black hair. Oh, I got them out of your files." And he's like, "Radar, why?" He's like, "No." He's like immediately concerned, like, "What? Stop! What have you done?" And he's like, "Well, I took it out of your file." It's like, "Well, why?" "Because I'm 2'6" and I have brown hair. And Hawkeye immediately, with for as womanizing and as silly as Hawkeye is, he absolutely, whether he knows it or not, is looking at Radar like a younger brother, or in a similar way that I look to the scouts. Like I care about these people and I want to mentor them. And when they do something ridiculous, I'm like, "Stop, stop. Think about what stop. Why are you doing this?" And he's like, "Radar, why?" And Radar tries to like power through and be like, "Oh, well, so anyway," she says, and he's like, "So what, stop. What if you meet this person? What if you go on writing to this person and you eventually she wants to meet up and now you're in this scenario where no matter what you do, you're the asshole. If you ghost her, you're the asshole. If you show up and you're not the person you say you are, you're the asshole." And Radar has this innocent childlike response of, "I'll tell her I got hurt in the war." And Hawkeye's like, "I'll tell her I stepped on a landmine with your face." Like, dude, what? I love how genuinely like Hawkeye went from like, "Okay, Radar, this is gonna be cute. You're gonna tell me about this," and he immediately cranked it to 100%. Nope, we're dealing with this now. This is a problem. But so, what do you think? What do you think of this either from Radar's perspective or Hawkeye's perspective of this first real development of their back and forth, their relationship?
I really like that Radar is honest enough and, respects Hawkeye's opinion enough to just fully admit, "Hey, there's this girl. I used your photo for because I like her. She's pen pal. I need your advice on how to take it further." Like,
But not just take it further, but I used your face, so clearly I need to know what your feelings are to convince her that I am this person. And Hawkeye's like, and I love that Radar gets a little flustered with Hawkeye. Like, "Just will you let me finish?" And Hawkeye's like, "Okay." Like, and Hawkeye stands up. He's like, "Well, what? How should I know?" "Well, wait, you gotta know."
and Hawkeye teaches Radar the most important skill of all.
"Yeah, you have to send her yours, but I don't know my feelings. Nobody ever asked me my feelings before." You've got him, Radar. Now, so I'm again watching this more analytically, and I'm going to say this to you, Ethan, but I want to say this to our audience at large, especially those of you who have watched through MASH before. And again, this goes back to the whole, am I overthinking it? Am I reading too much into it? Or is it an intentional writing choice because of what Hawkeye's character is, and it's just something they expand upon later? Ethan, could you please describe to me, once Radar asks Hawkeye about what his feelings are, could you just describe to me what Hawkeye does? In
What?
general terms. There's not a right or wrong answer. Just kind of in general terms what happens in the scene As Radar is questioning him about, oh, you got to know what your feelings are because I don't have my own.
Hawkeye gets up to leave and is perfectly content to end it there. I think because he wants Radar to come to the conclusion that he ends up having to tell him that you have to be honest and at least, tell her your own feelings. Because pretending to be somebody you're not is deeply unhealthy
Yeah.
and not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah. But and I'm gonna pose this because again, I have information you don't.
Mm-hmm.
This also ties into conversation we've already had this episode. As soon as Hawkeye is getting pushed about feelings, and again, I'm probably reading too much into this. He gets up and goes to leave. And when Radar presses him, he steps out of the tent and he doesn't like slam the door in Radar's face, but there is now a barrier between him and Radar. I'm not saying that the writers of this episode, Larry Gelbart and Gene Reynolds, were thinking 4 seasons ahead or 3 seasons ahead. I find the body language and what's going on in this scene very interesting. And again, this might be me no-prizing it a little bit. This might be me retroactively putting more meaning on actions than were intended at the time. I think you're probably right for how the scene was written when this episode was being shot. But given some storylines we're going to get with Hawkeye in the future, I find it very interesting that while he is telling Hawkeye your feelings are important, you need to be honest and you need to be open and you need to be, he is actively, subconsciously putting a physical barrier between him and that conversation. Again, that is something that I want to point out because I'm not going to remember to point it out in the future. That I thought of it right now in this season 1 episode when we get to the, I want to say it's a season 4 or 5 episode that I'm thinking about, or maybe a season 6. I don't know. It's a mid-series episode. I am curious, and again, audience, you are more than welcome to ask these questions because, again, I don't mean to throw Ethan under the bus. Ethan is not on Twitter. I run the social media so that anything you say that it could be spoilery, more than likely Ethan will not see. Which honestly I think is good because it allows me to kind of pose these questions to the audience without you getting anything spoiled.
I don't know, man. Part of me wants to set up a Twitter account, just throw in the towel and say fuck it. I held out as long as I could.
But at the end of the day, I could also just give you the login for hours and you can do it that way. But I would want to let the audience know you can see anything they send us. Because I'll be honest, we've had some I have had some back and forths as the Mashik podcast account regarding basically posing the question, I wonder what Ethan will think of this when it comes up. And there's been some good conversations, but kind of behind your back. But
well, you can't possibly know what I'll think because I don't think.
I think the most recent one was someone posted a sheet of like the characters that replace other characters, and people were discussing like the pros and cons of the before ones and the after ones. And I just posed, I'm curious who Ethan would like or dislike or favorite or not favorite. And it was very interesting some of the responses we got from like Chief Smash and Mike Jameson and all those guys. So
it still boggles my mind that people are invested in this podcast.
Again, I'm gonna say it. There's the multiple reasons they're invested. One, we're apparently somewhat entertaining. 2,
bullshit.
You are not watching the show for the first time because you had seen it before, but you are fully appreciating the show for the first time, which a lot of people wish they could do again. And both of us are very much younger than the generation that either were adults when the show came out or were growing up when the show came out. So it is interesting for us to look at it through the lens of people that have grown up in the 90s to late 90s, early 2000s up until now, because we're going to interpret things differently than they were. So, like, people love us, Ethan. We are loved. I promise.
You maybe.
So yeah, so audience, genuinely, for those of you who have seen MASH, you can DM us on Twitter, so keep it under wraps if you wish, just in case Ethan does see it. You can also direct message the us at the podcast in that little link in the description. In fact, I'm gonna make sure I open that tab up and see if anyone used it. Save that for later. But I'm curious, what now with the knowledge that we have, do you read this scene differently now that I've pointed out some of those things I noticed, or do you not? And I'm over analyzing it because I'm weird. But anyway, so yeah, Hawkeye leaves Radar with the "you need to tell her your feelings" and kind of leaves it at that. We then see Klinger again. The engine piston is on Henry's desk. The engine piston is on Henry's desk. Anyway, man, that's never gonna get old.
Nope.
It's never gonna get old. He's got to be using it as an ashtray. Like, what other reason?
He inspired me to take one of the pistons out of the 327 out of the Impala
perfect
and use it as an ashtray on my desk. Like,
it's weirdly a perfect shape, is it not?
It's wonderful.
So Klinger comes in. I would like to point out, I don't think I ever consciously was aware of this until I was thinking about it today. Red scarf, red top, red dress.
Very much a babushka.
And very much a babushka. I was more focused on the red.
Yeah,
for,
of course.
Reasons. Colonel, are you in? No, Klinger. This is a film of me. I died about $100 ago. Klinger, for some reason, has a basket of beauty products? I'm not sure. So Klinger admits that he is a communist, a Marxist, card-carrying Bolshevik, says Henry. Which Klinger interprets as BS, when in reality it is obviously the Bolsheviks. Anyway, the history nerd will stop talking now.
Oh,
but an atheistic Marxist card-carrying Bolshevik. No, honest, you imperialist dog. And Henry finally breaks out. I've got my own problems killing her. I'd never hit a woman before. Sir, what do I have to do to get out? That's your problem, Klinger. It's I love it. I think that and the scene previously is some of my favorite Henry and Klinger scenes. We then see Frank. Frank, you could have just waited. You could have waited until the money was actually in your account. So Frank tells Margaret that he's made a great big purchase in stock that's going to make him a millionaire. And that, his ship's pulling into Easy Street. And Margaret says, let's ride her right now. And Margaret's trying to explain to Frank that a millionaire can afford a wife and an ex-wife. And Frank starts to double talk. Don't you realize she gets half of everything? This is where Margaret says, Frank, your upper lip is disappearing. Frank, you need to commit. You need to either commit to your wife or commit that you are an asshole. Pick a direction, dude. It'll just be better for you. You're trying to have it all, and it's really messing up the program. What? So, okay. Here's a silly question for you, Ethan.
Yo.
A paid-for apartment, close to his office for lunchtimes, with a salary of $100 a week. Or $100 a month, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
Which, we'll do the inflation math. Let's say it's $1,200. $1,200 a month clear. An apartment that is taken care of for you. You just do you take Frank's offer? Let's assume there is no sexual component in it.
Yeah,
There's
well,
some
Frank's
sort of
not really my type.
let
Like,
let's assume that it's not a sexual thing. It's a maybe it's a I this is your allowance, this is your apartment, but you work for me. Not for any additional pay, but that's the assignment. Or let's say Frank is a lady that you are interested in. You
I
never have
am
you never have to work, but you get $1,200 a month and an apartment you don't need to worry about.
I am going to say I couldn't do it, but I'm going to say I couldn't do it for entirely different reasons than wife Margaret can't.
Mm. See, because my thing is for just a little bit more effort, you could make double the money. Like that's that's where my brain goes. Like if literally I could go out and get a bare bones job right now and make more than $1,200 a month. Like,
Well, and
but
and
but
and let's be
you know what?
fair, $1,200 where I am and $1,200 where you are vastly
True,
different amounts.
true, but also $1,200 without having to worry about rent being paid
Yeah.
is different than 2 grand and having to pay rent.
Mhm.
So
I don't know. I'll tell you, I am hardwired in a way that drives most of my shrinks absolutely fucking insane. Which is
I am putting that on a t-shirt for you.
thank you. Which is if I am not actively doing something, I will lose my fucking mind. In
Mm,
the absence of problems, I will create my own.
damn, that is almost word for word a phrase my dad says.
If I don't think I could have everything taken care of for me like that because I would feel so completely useless. And I'm sure I get that from growing up, especially after the recession of 2008, you know, that just some things you have to do for your family to make things a little easier at a very influential time in young Ethan Wilson's life have had
Ethan
lasting and
walked the
profound effects.
streets. Ethan walked the streets in heels. He was a lady of the night.
That's right.
I'm
And for
making fun of you as
500.
you're like profoundly opening up about
Well, it's not so much.
you're like I had to do things to help my family. Ethan was a stripper, and I find that hilarious. No,
I'm gonna be honest. If I could be a stripper, I would.
hey man, it's current year. You do you, boo boo.
You've seen my body. There's no demand.
Hey,
But the
one man's trash, Ethan. Just remember
the
that.
the problem with me saying no, I can't do it is first of all, I'm a man,
Yes.
and society has
How
kind
dare
of
you?
hardwired me to not allow myself to be useless. And I think we both know, I think we all know the reasons why Margaret takes such deep offense to this. And quite frankly, it is
Yep.
a deeply offensive
Yep.
proposition.
Oh, 100%. I didn't think we had to spell that out, but no,
Yeah, yeah.
this is a you are my plaything. You're gonna live in your little house, your doll house over here, and when I am comfortable with it and I can get away with it, I will come visit you and I will give you the barest amount of money to keep you satiated. Luckily, Margaret is a strong, independent woman who don't need no man. Um, and does not fall for that for a second.
And I hate to say it, but I really am looking forward to the later post Frank seasons because I know they can do so much with Margaret's character, and I know how wonderful an actor Loretta Swit is already.
Yes.
So I don't see how it can't be just an absolutely amazing development to watch.
Hmm. And $100 a month spending money. I get 400 as a major. Margaret, you can't expect me to outbid the U.S. Army. Fair. Also, that means Margaret's pulling down like 4,800, $5,000 a month. Hell yeah, girl. Get that bag. I mean, that's only 60K a year, but fuck, I'm not making 60K a year. Get that bag.
Well, and you
Get the,
also aren't exactly spending it. I mean, you're fucking locked in the middle of
yeah,
Korea. So
that's fair. Yeah, how the fuck do officers not go home with like at least a well padded like savings account?
they spend them on Dodge Chargers.
Oh god. Oh, I saw something disgusting that I need to send to you.
Oh, thank you.
Some Someone took a 69 Dodge Charger, painted it Union uniform blue, painted the Union battle flag on the top and
Oh,
named it
you did send that to me, the
the
General
General
Grant.
Grant.
Yep.
That's so great.
I'm a
What
fan.
what does the horn play?
Um,
The Battle Hymn of the Republic?
it would have to, right? Actually, that could be pretty good.
Holy shit, that
Yeah,
actually works.
that works pretty well.
Oh god, that's so terrible. Anyway. So yeah,
Hmm.
Margaret's not having any of it. And you and your Pioneer Aviation, no one's supposed to know. And one of the probably top 5 most iconic Margaret clips from the show. Pioneer Aviation! Pioneer Aviation! Pioneer Aviation! God, I really hope my dad's neighbors are not working to
That
oh, I
sounds
just
like their problem.
that sounds like they are no, it's not. Hang on, I'm fixing my mic because I accidentally hit a button on it. Um, that's their problem, not their problem, because I just gave them great stock advice. Pioneer Aviation, and I love this shot so much. Frank goes running out the door, and Margaret's screaming out after him, and you just see Jeff Maxwell just standing. He was just talking to us, and he just looks up and he's staring at Margaret like, "What in the actual hell is happening?" Uh, Jeff Maxwell's like, I am just gonna not move. Jeff Maxwell has the look on his face like the people in the Jurassic Park movie. She can't. If they can't see us if we don't move. Like, just let whatever is happening happen and don't involve yourself. Radar returns to Hawkeye with the letter he has written to Mary Jo. You asked me what my feelings are, and I believe what follows are those. 2 things are number 1 with me: being kind to everyone, regardless of race, creed, or sex, if you'll excuse that 4-letter word.
But
Also being honest. Speaking of which, I have to tell you, I'm really not a captain, only a corporal. And I'm not a doctor, although I was once a patient. This is such an adorable letter.
I know.
And then I'm enclosing a more recent picture of me, as if that has the real color of my hair and my real length. I'll watch for your feelings by return mail. Your pen pal Radar O'Reilly. I fucking love this initial. We've gotten little glimpses of it, but I think this is the firm beginning of establishing this back and forth between Hawkeye. That Radar is young and naive to most of the world. I like this Radar that he is good at what he does. Like earlier, he explained to Frank how he may not exactly know all the details, but he knows that if he wants to talk to New York at 9 a.m., he has to call them at 1 a.m. Like, he knows this. And he knows that it's not just, you know, it's not 9 a.m. and 1 a.m. on the same day. It's a day apart. Like, he does that. He has the paperwork. He gets the logistics figured. He as soon as Frank says telegram, he clears his desk, has a notepad in his hand. But I love the Radar that can do that, but is also unsure of himself. Despite all evidence to the contrary that he is capable, I love it. Is such, and I think the reason why, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna bring up scouting again. It's very much the first year scout vibe. Like, they come in, you see what their strengths and weaknesses are, and despite knowing that they have strengths, they're still little 10-year-olds who don't know that and they are hesitant. I I love the vibe they give Radar. I love that he is not the greasy, sleazy movie version of Radar. And I know there are people that disagree with me and do not like naive Radar. And I appreciate that, but I disagree with you. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I disagree with you. Now that I've ranted, Ethan, your thoughts
Yo.
on this how this played out, how this part of the story played out.
I love how much Radar respects Hawkeye. You know, I
Yes.
first of all to steal enough to steal his identity, and then second of all to take his advice and honestly search himself for his beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
his thoughts, and then do the right thing, the honest thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I doubt we do, but I'm just gonna ask: do we ever get any continuation on the pen pal?
I do not believe the pen pal Mary Joe is a recurring thing.
And you know what? That's fair.
But I will say we don't get the specifically the pen pal, but there is a trope that Radar just gets weird shit in the mail. like the oh fuck, what's the one he did from last season?
The
The
shoes.
the shoes and the 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 Style Shoe Company, and then the the high school diploma place of Delavan,
Yes.
Indiana. Yeah. And then he tells Margaret like he puts in for like samples of perfume and like seeds and stuff just to get shit in the mail. There's a lot of great stuff where Radar's thing for the episode is trying out this new hobby he found via the mail. Via
And
like a
not to mention
catalog.
him mailing back a Jeep piece by
Yes.
piece.
Yes. Um In fact, one very similarly, there is going to be a Radar get something in the mail that happens next season, and Hawkeye has a wonderful response to it. It's so good.
Spoilers.
It's so good. It's so good because it's this little thing that Radar thinks will help him, and no one will notice, and Hawkeye immediately catches on because he knows Radar. But anyway, Trapper is drunk. He's Irish, so yes.
Amen.
Like Ethan's either going to react positively to that or negatively for comedic effect, and I was not surprised. Uh he is planning to hoof it home to see his daughters. He's done with Korea. Hawkeye, being a good friend, tries to point out like as soon as you get shot for desertion, they're going to arrest you for drunk driving. Uh Trapper is continuously stuffing rolls of toilet paper into his duffel because he doesn't want to go home empty-handed.
A true COVID prepper.
True COVID prepper. Hawkeye is trying to talk sense into him, but Trapper's not having. He's like, "Look, I think the line he says is, if I don't like a movie, I get up and leave. I'm tired of the war. I'm out of here." You know, like he's drunk, but that also the most honest people in the world are drunk people and children. I think that's very much Trapper's vibe. He's like, I normally don't care. I have a reason to care now. Fuck you, get out of my way. Like, we talked about it earlier, but I think that's pretty on the nose. He doesn't get worked up, but once he does, it's get the fuck out of his way.
Yeah.
Hawkeye gets knocked to the side just as Frank comes in, and Hawkeye really trying to pull out all the stops. Stop him, Frank! You know Hawkeye's desperate when he's calling upon Frank.
Yeah.
to do anything useful. Uh, Frank messes with, says, "Oh, I can buy and sell you," and Trapper lets the cat out of the bag. Uh, "Oh, you're so smart. You invested in Pioneer Aviation." I never saw that letter, and Hawkeye immediately like, "Oh, we got him." "What letter, Frank?" "The one under my pillow?" "That's the one." And then the reveal of that Frank messaged his stockbroker, sell immediately all shares and buy Pioneer Aviation. And they let Frank know he's an idiot. They made it up. Uh, and Frank has just lost all the money in his stock portfolio.
Let this be a lesson to you all. Drunks, much like toddlers, can be stopped from making poor decisions by being distracted with something else.
Yes.
I was gonna ask though, do you think like in the event, in this wildly farcical event, that Frank is like sell all my stock, put it in Pioneer Aviation, which does not exist. Do you think
Mm-hmm.
they would like sell all of it anyway and be like, all right?
I don't know. So there's two ways you could interpret the end of this episode. There's 2.5 ways you can interpret the end of this episode, because I don't know how stockbroker work. I would hope to God my stockbroker wouldn't just take my word at face value and they would do a little bit of like fact checking. Like, okay, there is a company called Pioneer Aviation with stocks we can buy. We are going to sell and then purchase. What I hope wouldn't happen is our client just said sell all his stock so he can buy this other stock. Sell it all. Cool. We're gonna go buy this. Why doesn't this stock exist? Shit. Fuck. Or
Whoopsie.
option 3, Frank just is realizing he's not going to make $1 million or millions of dollars, and he's just going to be stuck with whatever amount of money he has. I'm assuming what the show is hinting at is that he lost all his money. The brokers sold all his shares and then came to find out there is no Pioneer Aviation to buy. Or fourth case scenario, there's a podunk little fucking mom and pop making little Piper Cub crop dusters in Nebraska somewhere who just got a 24 grand investment from fucking Frank Burns. But I don't know. We have a couple weird things happening in this end scene. Hawkeye steals Margaret's line of "We need some more sponges here."
I
And
wondered if
then
you were gonna notice that.
Frank is pleading with Margaret, "You must believe me. I'm truly sorry. Margaret, I'll do anything. I'll get down on my knees. I'll kiss your feet." And Margaret eyes kind of widen and she looks at Frank. "My tent, 8 o'clock." And I love that Hawkeye and Trapper just let it go. They're just like, Margaret's publicly embarrassing Frank, and that's probably most of the that's her comeuppance for Frank is you've been an asshole. I'm gonna one openly admit that we're dating, which everyone knows anyway, but also openly admit that you're gonna do something degrading at your expense for me. Yeah, that's a fair trade off for how you've been behaving. Like, I kind of love that, and Hawkeye and Trapper see that, and they're like, "Fair play. That the ball's in her court. We're not gonna say shit."
Yeah, absolutely. It's letting her get a little bit of hers. You know, he thought he could
Mm-hmm.
float that incredibly insulting offer. So if he wants to get back in her good graces,
Excellent. So yeah, that's mail call, baby. Good lots to unpack there. There's a lot of good setup for future stuff with Margaret and Frank, with Hawkeye and bop bop boop beep bop radar. There's some good I don't want to say good setup for Klinger, but like just some more Klinger. More Klinger is always good.
yeah,
Henry, I don't know about Henry. He gets something to do. He gets to be
balancing a
McLean.
checkbook.
Well, McLean Stevens gets to be Henry a little bit in this episode and be have fun with it. But yeah, you know, I think a good all around episode. And again, lots of interesting things to unpack. Whether or not they are actually there to be unpacked or I'm making it up, in my own weird twisted brain, whatever.
I really value our ability to take a 25-minute episode and stretch it into 2 hours of bullshit
Fuck yeah,
rambling.
baby.
And
Fuck yeah,
if
baby.
if any of these people, quote unquote, actually exist, I can't believe I don't understand it. I've said it before. I probably say it too much, but I don't understand it. Anyway,
Oh, one of the new podcasts I've been listening to is literally their whole thing is one topic for 15 minutes and that's it. Yeah, I couldn't do that. I love talking about shit with people. I really do. But
get into the bottom of shit, you know?
get into the deep dark crevices of the universe. So I will ask, because he is the one character I did not bring up directly just now. What do you think of Trapper this episode? You're a little Trapper stan. You're a little Trapper fanboy. What? How do you think? What do you think of Trapper? Do you think we got some good continuing development out of him? Do you think this was a good one for him?
I don't know that it's continuing development. I think it's more just unearthing of his character,
Mm-hmm.
which is nothing that I don't think anyone could have predicted. I think when the trips are down, he will do anything for his daughters
Mm-hmm.
and his family as a whole. And I think, drunk or not, if he decided, okay, I need to go see my family, he would stop at nothing to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And
So you're telling me,
yeah,
well, I want to make sure I understand this because it's gonna again, you're saying the Trapper will take any opportunity given to him to go home.
I am saying that
I've got
Trapper.
audience. I have Ethan bent over a fucking barrel right now, and I love it. Yes, continue.
No, I'm trying to think of how to word this. Um, I think you don't let Trapper do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think Trapper will do what he needs to do, whatever he thinks that may be.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Did I get it right?
We'll see. So what? So penultimate episode. We know that Mash doesn't. It comes from a time where, like, I don't want to say comes from a time where this wasn't a thing. It was a thing, but Mash hasn't really done it yet. Season finale. Season one, season finale was Showtime. The
Mm-hmm.
kind of day in the life while a USO show was performing, if you remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Henry's son was born. Radar was playing the drums. That whole thing. That was a finale in the sense that it didn't have like a plot. It just had some vignettes. Frank was pranking Hawkeye, I believe, in that one. And it wrapped up, season one. What, if anything, are you expecting something like that, or what are you thinking about the finale, the next episode we're gonna watch? Do you have any preconceived notions, or have you watched it already?
I have not watched it yet. I actually have not caught up. The So when I did my whole binge thing, I stopped at I believe it was As You Were, and then these
Mm,
last three I have been watching in real time. Actually, in a mail call, I watched for the first time, finishing up my shift at work.
nice.
I figure a smattering of intelligence is probably going to be story driven without a cliffhanger. Probably
Yeah.
a really all encompassing A plot without a real B plot.
Okay.
That's my guess.
Not
I'm
it's not a series finale in the way that we have them today. It's not
right,
because MASH doesn't have a series long storyline going on.
but I have to imagine it's probably because I know they filmed these and released them in a different order. I have to imagine that it's the one wanted to end on, so it's probably
You know
strong
what? I can
in
answer that question for you.
in a
So,
storytelling sense. Okay.
the last three episodes at least from what I can see here, release order and production order are the same.
Okay,
George was produced and before this episode, and this episode was produced before A Smattering of Intelligence. So for this case, the last 3 episodes of the series of this season, anyway, um, were filmed and released in this order. So
gotcha.
that's not always the case, but
Right.
yeah. All right, interesting. Any guesses on what the plot might be with the name A Smattering of Intelligence?
I don't know. I have to imagine it has to do with something with Army intelligence. I almost wonder if it's another undercover agent. Like I remember the storyline not too long ago when Hawkeye and Trapper wanted to operate on a what was it, a CID man?
Yeah, from Deal Me Out.
Yeah, that I don't think it's exactly that, but I imagine it's in a similar vein.
Yep.
But
Now here's the real question, audience. Are we meeting a character for the first time, or are we meeting them again? Fine.
what the
Leave us
fuck?
your thoughts and opinions. We did spoil this for you, Ethan. Um, we might be meeting someone we've met before, or are we? It's unclear. But with that, what would you rate Mail Call, Ethan?
I think 4.2 out of 5.
4.2 out of 5. Respectable.
Yeah, it's a
Respectable.
good episode. I liked it a lot. I think it had some good character development points, but I definitely think it's one you have to take in context. I certainly couldn't show this to someone who'd never seen the show before. I can
Mm,
appreciate it a lot more because I've been getting into the show now.
you kind of
But
understand the character dynamics a little better.
exactly,
Yeah.
if you didn't have any outside knowledge, this would not be enjoyable.
Okay. Okay. Solid. I'm right up there with you. I was gonna give it a 4, but after watching it and kind of seeing all the little nuances that, again, were either intentional or they weren't, and we'll never truly know for certain. I seriously doubt that Larry Gelbart and Gene Reynolds were thinking of seasons 7, 8, 9, and 10 when they wrote this episode. But solid 4.25, I would say. This is a good one, especially to come back to after watching the series through and kind of seeing that, yeah, Frank and Margaret are gross and weird for each other, but also Frank fucks it up, and Margaret is aware that he fucks it up, and Radar and Hawk have a really good relationship. Uh, and again, it sets up a lot of things uh, that the writers can then play with in the future. So I like it.
Hell yeah.
Shall we go to the audience?
I can't wait.
Audience first to the Patreon. Uh, as always, the Patreon members help pay for getting this show up. I do have to apologize that this episode, the previous episode, and probably the next episode are going to be a little helter skelter with getting at least the video up on time. I can almost always guarantee the audio will go up on time. It's the video that causes the problems. But I appreciate your patience on that. It's just a little mashugana with my scheduling right now because I got scout stuff and work stuff and more work stuff we found out now. So yeah, uh, the amount of free time I have to do some of this is limited, and I know Ethan's gonna lament that. Uh, I if I could give you things to do, Ethan, I could, but I can't transfer you a half edited video file. It doesn't work like that. But
But alas,
it is what it is. But despite that, we would like to thank our fabulous patrons who support us over on Patreon. Link is in the description if you are interested. And do keep your eyes out because once my schedule gets back to normal, we are going to be poking the little cage that you guys are in and getting some opinions from you before we dive into season 3. So on that note, we would like to thank Private Stuart Boyles, Private Sarah McIntosh, Private Jared Gallagher, Corporal Derek B., Sergeant Timothy Burleson, Sergeant Louise Black, Lieutenant Mike Jameson, Lieutenant Leanne, and Lieutenant Brad Ryder. Thank you so much for your support, because it does make me and Ethan not have to worry about, like, hey, we recorded 2 2-hour episodes, which means we're over our 3-hour limit for episodes this month, which means it's going to cost more to. We don't have to worry about it. You guys have made it so that is a complete non-issue now.
Yeah, and quite frankly, if they're willing to listen to 2 hours, that feels like it's more their fault than ours.
There are going to be some cool things coming to the Patreon. By cool, I mean just changes. Like I said, we are trying to get merch as an option for everyone, not just Patreon people, but merch is an option, which Ethan and I need to talk about when my plate is a little clearer. And we are probably going to use the Patreon money in addition to paying for the episode. We probably are going to use it to fund part of our excursion to the Kansas State National Guard museum, where that little MASH display is. That we might use Patreon money to fund that day excursion, because this trip is already super expensive. So, but yeah, all that and more coming probably once we wrap up season 3. We'll have a little chit chat about that, and we'll have cool stuff to share with you. But enough talking about the Patreon. Let's get to some audience thoughts and commentary from the Patreon. We have good old Mike Jameson. Everyone remembers Pioneer Aviation, rightfully so, but I like the added character building we get for Trapper, as he's seen not just as the fun-loving, cheating Lothario, but also a husband and father far from home. Wish we'd gotten more character development like this, as I'm sure Wayne Rogers would have knocked it out of the park. We see the maturing of the Radar Hawkeye relationship, building towards the big and little brother dynamic. Another classic Klinger bit regarding his file. All around winner. I'd even say underrated. 4 out of 5 martinis. Brad had lots of things to say. Firstly, he wanted to say thank you. The last podcast episode was a long one, but it needed to be. He thanked me for letting us in on a bit of my personal life. Yes, Brad. When you opened the episode, it took me a second for it to click, but then I said to myself, "Oh, cool." Yes! The dumb opening of the episode worked. I love it. Now on to this episode. I'm a sucker for the deer episodes. This one is incredibly fun and quotable. Pioneer Aviation is the story that stands out the most, but the rest of the stories are just as fun. Klinger going to Henry to get out is always a riot. Radar and Hawk have a wonderful, heartfelt story that I hate, and that was deleted in the syndicated TV versions. The timeline conversation is always a riot. This is a solid 4.6 episode for me. Yeah, at some point, we're going to have to get like Mike, Chief Smash, maybe even Mash Historian. Mash Historian, if you're listening, we want to have you on the show. Reach out to us. Yeah, we're going to have a how can MASH fit into a real world timeline? And if so, how many bones do you have to break to make it happen?
About a few is what I'm guessing.
About a few is an understatement. Ethan, I'm gonna spoil one thing for you. There's an episode that takes place over the course of an entire year, and that's honestly that's the episode that breaks putting MASH into the one consistent timeline.
What the fuck do you mean?
It is one of my. I don't want to say it's one of my favorite, because what does that mean? I love this entire show, but it is actually a really fun episode. But yeah. Over to the hell site known as Twitter. Thank you everyone on Twitter. I literally remembered to post this next episode post 3 hours ago. So 3 hours from when we started recording, which was 8 days ago now. So let me. Twitter is a hell site. Twitter is a hell site. Give me the link to the thing. Nope, that's the wrong one. Elon Musk is an idiot. All right. Corb says one of the things about Trapper's character that made him so distinct was that he had a dark and brooding side. It didn't appear often, but we see it a few times, especially in the Radar's Report episode when his patient dies after the wounded POW goes amok in the OR. Yes.
Orb gets it.
Corb gets it. But no, we talked about it then, and we talked about it even a little today, that if Trapper is moved enough, he is moved to frustration. Hawkeye is too, but in a different way. And there's a great quote later in the season, and I don't want to spoil it, but Trapper is anger on a long fuse, and that's the way I would put Trapper. He has the ability to get angry, but it has to be just the right scenario and the right circumstances. Hawkeye is, of course, I won't say the quote, but he is a different type of anger. Mike Jameson replied to this and said that Trapper did have so many depths that weren't explored. He'd love to have seen where they took his character in later, more serious seasons. He was so much more than a sidekick, and Roger had the charisma and talent to play different shades. He
Amen.
did. He very much did. Anyway, again, we know where it's going, but we will savor the time we have with Trapper. Ethan, do you know when Wayne Rogers leaves the show?
Wayne Rogers never leaves the show. What are you talking about?
Excellent, good. Bella Sissa says, here's an oldie but a goodie. Half of the family dying, the other half pregnant. This episode is full of great lines. Radar's double talk about the time zones. Klinger trying everything to get out. Margaret telling Frank he can afford a wife and an ex-wife. I love this one. 4.5 out of 5. Donut Eater, great new format that gives everyone a chance to shine. Nice seeing a different side to Trapper. Frank was his fun, weaselly self with the scenes with Margaret and Pioneer Aviation. And Klinger gets 2 great schemes, and Radar getting a lesson in confidence. Chief Smash Forever says 4 out of 5. Absolutely has some great rememberable lines. And yeah. And we get to see small previews of each character's lives outside the army in this episode. It's similar to Dear Dad and many others. I like this type of episode. It's one of my favorites. Yeah. That is it. And I'm scrolling down here, and there is Chief Smash Forever. If you are so inclined and on the Twitter, go to Chief Smash Forever's Twitter page, and you will see he has so much shit. And I don't say shit derogatorily. He has so much MASH stuff. He has so much cool MASH stuff, and I want it.
It just keeps going. And
the nice thing
going.
Is he made the mistake of telling me what state he lives in, which means the amount of geographic area I need to search to find where he lives has shrunk. This is a threat. So no, check out Chief Smash's video. I'll make sure to go and reshare it right now, because
next episode of the Best Anywhere podcast, Best Care Anywhere podcast, life from Chief Smash Forever's basement.
We're coming to you live from the walls inside of Chief Smash Forever home. I'm your host, Anthony. With me, as always, we're not quite sure how we got him in here, but it's Ethan Wilson.
Does anyone know the phone number of any good criminal defense attorneys?
Yeah. So, yes, Chief Smash Forever. I hope you have a good security system. We are coming.
Oh, it won't.
But help. Yeah, that's it. Season finale next episode. Should the audio version, I promise, will be out on time. Video versions might have to be a little later, just because there's only so many hours in the day, and I've got 45 things happening. We will do a wrap-up episode. That'll probably be 4th of July week. Oh, no, that'll be the end of June. And then for first part of July, we will watch a movie, an undecided movie. And then right into season 3, baby. We're motoring. We're a whole barely a sixth of the way through this podcast. So,
yes.
And with that, I think we're done. Have a wonderful night. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Get out.
Every time. You do it every time.
Yeah. Every time.
Will I leave it in this time? Who knows?
The time has come for us to say sayonara.